Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Salatu salama ala Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Amma ba'd. Dear Path of Love viewers, the reason I had a pause because we are starting a new program, inshallah. And probably this is the second week. And we're trying to just talk about love. And we're going to come back pretty soon about when we talk about love, what we're talking about. So in this program, we're trying to bring the most expert people and that they're entitled and they're kind of qualified for talking about love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, love of Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and what is love all about, the real love, not the superficial love. So today I have a special guest that I have a lot of respect and love for this brother, for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We have with ourselves brother Ehsan Torabi. And it's a familiar face, and he's actually a co-founder of or founder of Ihya Foundation. And he's has many sessions, like retreat sessions, and also he's a teacher, a mentor, and a coach. So I have him with me online. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, brother Ehsan.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. It's good to see you again, Habib John.
Same way. Thank you so much for accepting our invitation again. So, inshallah, if you want to say a few words about the people and the viewers of this program, and then inshallah we move on.
Alhamdulillah. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. May God's eternal peace and support and divine light and guidance be with you. It's a pleasure to be with you again, inshallah.
Jazakallah khair.
Yeah.
Brother Ehsan right now is not here. He's just northern part of America. I cannot say which state, but he's someplace actually, and everybody's in an isolation situation. Actually, he's staying. He lives in Southern California. So, anyways, Brother Ehsan, the reason we came up with this program because there was a lot of requests from our viewers and stuff because we're trying to bring people to talk about this because this situation, as we observe day and night, it's kind of tough for a lot of people. They are depressed and they have anxiety. They experience different, difficulties and tribulation. So that's the reason we trying to just promote this kind of path of love. And this kind of how we could reconnect to our Creator. So I will leave it to you at this point as an expert and a mentor. If you facing your students or the people that they're trying to listen to you, what do you have to say for them in this tough situation?
Well, first of all, I think that this is an inspired and guided initiative on your part, Habib John, to have this program named The Path of Love, because ultimately, that's what this religion is about. Islam is ultimately about love. And I think that most people don't realize that a lot of times. Maybe the way that we've been taught Islam, we've been taught that it's praying and fasting and Hajj and so on. But really, Islam is ultimately about love. The cultivation of a state of love, of real, true love. Now, love is something that is profoundly misunderstood in our world. And it's not real love, what people usually refer to when they speak about love. But real love is divine. It's from God. It's heavenly. And that real love can exist between human beings as well, but that's only when that love is based in the love of the divine does it become true and real. So I won't say too much now, inshallah, maybe we'll get into it in the discussion, but it's a perfect topic because we have to really, as Muslims, come back to realizing that the reality of this religion is the awakening to a transcendent, pure, beautiful, and complete and healing state of love. That was the way of the Prophet ﷺ. He was the messenger of love. Rahmah is love.
Yes. Beautifully started. This the path you're moving on toward, inshallah. As you notice in the community, you've been involved with different communities with youth, with adults, and a lot of other people. But one thing we're missing, that sincerity, even if you practice, and a lot of people, they say, we don't find that sweetness of Iman, that sweetness when people talk about it. Where is that, the dhaiqa, right?
Yeah.
And when I pray, like that's the way you're saying, I don't feel like I connected. I don't feel like I get anything. What should I do? And this is a common question for many people. And at this point, so I want you to just, just add something to this. And is this a start because we're not connected to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Or maybe we don't know our creator and supposed to, the way we're supposed to know him or his prophet?
Sure. So I suppose the question is how to experience and taste the sweetness
Yes,
of Iman?
That's what I meant, yeah.
I would say that the fastest, the simplest way is to find the lovers of Allah, those who love Allah, Ahl al-Dhikr. Whether you find them in your local community, whether you have to travel to spend some time with them, whether you see them online, but begin to tune in to those hearts who are in the love of Allah. Then it will get to you, it will reach to you, that your heart then opens up. So we have to remember that this was the way, this is the sunnah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is why He sent the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He poured light into the heart of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Divine light, heavenly light, and love. That compassion was full in the heart of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And through his heart, it reached to the hearts of his companions. They didn't get it from thin air. It was through the heart of the Prophet ﷺ that the Sahaba awakened to the divine love, to the ishq, and to the sweetness of Iman and Ibadah. Number one. So we have to reconnect with our Prophet ﷺ and also with the inheritors of the Prophet. Who are the inheritors of the Prophet ﷺ? Because it may be, the Prophet is over 1400 years distant from us in terms of time and space. So it may be a little bit difficult or challenging unless we really study the seerah and so on. But even then, you want to study with somebody who is a living person who is truly following the footsteps of the Prophet ﷺ, that's making it real. So it's not just theory, so it's not just information. You see its manifestation in you. Then you fall in love. Then the sweetness of ibadah opens up. The sweetness of ibadah is in the emulation of the Messenger ﷺ. In praying like him, right? Then this is what he said. This is why, subhanAllah, this is why the Prophet ﷺ didn't explicitly define the method of the prayer. So afterwards we have different ulama that tried their best to describe the prayer of the Prophet ﷺ according to the sources that they had access to, and then we came up with the four schools of fiqh, Hanafi, Shafi, Maliki, Hanbali. Because the Prophet didn't say one day to the companions, everybody gather around, bring your pens, bring notes, whoever can write, I'm going to explain how to pray. He never did that. And we have to ask ourselves, why did he never do that? Mm-hmm. Instead, the Prophet ﷺ said, pray as you see me praying. That's what he said. So they looked and they did as he was doing. Mm-hmm. And through emulating the Prophet, love went into their hearts for the worship. They fell in love with their prayer. They fell in love with their worship. It's very different than learning it from a set of instructions. Step 1, step 2, step 3. Right. There's a place for that, right? It's important to know these things, but not at the cost of an exemplar, the prophetic example. So the Prophet ﷺ was the example. Now what about us? We're 1400 years later. How do we follow the Prophet? How do we pray as he prayed? We have been very blessed and fortunate in this religion that Allah is preserving it. Yes. That means He's not only preserving this religion in books, right? It's not just being preserved in some sort of recorded media, right? That the Mus'haf, the Quran is being preserved just, no. Allah said, I am preserving this religion. I am preserving this book. Mm-hmm. Allah will preserve this. How is Islam truly preserved? And preservation is like hifz, right? Yeah. So how is the Quran actually preserved? Through the hufaz, those who are hufaz of the Quran.
Memorized.
But it's not just memorization. It's those who know its form and its essence. Otherwise, you only have one dimension.
Right.
If they can just recite the book, but they're not carrying its essence, its reality, it's incomplete. So Allah is, when He says He's preserving the religion, He's preserving its form and its essence. And before, in the Quran was never written. I mean, there was a few that wrote for sure, but it was never compiled in the time of the Prophet ﷺ. So when Allah made that promise that He's going to preserve it, it didn't mean He's going to preserve it in recorded format. It meant He's going to preserve it in the hearts of human beings, in the hearts of men who will not swerve from the path. And who are those men? Who are those believers? Allah says in the Quran, Ya ayyuhal ladina amanu, ittaqullah wa kunu ma'a sadiqin. Oh, you who believe, be mindful of God, be conscious of God, and be with those who are siddiq, sadiqeen, those who have reached to the maqam of as-sidq, sincerity and trustworthiness, truthfulness, where they haven't swerved from their path. From the day of promises, when Allah said, am I not your Lord? And all the souls said yes, and they came into this world and they stayed true to their covenant, while most other people became diverted in the distractions of the world. They stayed true. Those true lovers of Allah, those true lovers of the Prophet ﷺ, those are the inheritors of the Prophet ﷺ. And those are the doorways, they are the portals, they are the illuminated gifts of Allah to this creation. And this world is never without pious people.
Right.
There are many hypocrites, there are many unbelievers, there are many decent people and not so decent people, but there are always amongst human beings awliya of Allah. There will always be awliya of Allah. And He says it in the Quran Kareem. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala affirms that in the Quran. And the Prophet ﷺ said, Al-ulama warathatul anbiya. The ulama, the real ulama though, not just people of book knowledge, but those who have also the essence as well, the form and the essence, those are the inheritors of the Prophet ﷺ. So to experience the sweetness of Iman, that would be the first step, or the most powerful step, to be with the people of light, to be with the people of love. And how do you find them? You take a step. You make an intention, first and foremost. Seek them. When you are seeking Allah, He is going to seek you. And if you take a step towards Allah, He's going to take the next 10 towards you.
If I stop you for a second and continue, I'm sorry. Because at this point, when you mention awliya, a lot of people, there's a misconception about awliya. We would think awliya, or saints. So can you shed a little light on this one? Because a lot of people did have difficulty understanding what awliya is all about.
Sure. So awliya is usually translated as the friends of God, the friends of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Allah describes in the Quran as saying that upon the awliya of Allah, there is no fear and there's no grief. They don't suffer. They've transcended fear and grief. The awliya of Allah are human beings who are essentially lovers of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They love Allah Almighty, truly love Him. Not an ego-based love, not a self-righteous kind of love. It's a true love, a pure love. They are immersed in Allah's love and worship. And then that manifests in their character and personality as beauty. When you see them, they're humble people. They're simple people. They may not be the most knowledgeable people. It could be the person that cleans the mosque. It could be the bus driver. It could be a teacher. It could be an engineer. It could be an imam. It could be a sheikh. It could be anybody can be one of the awliya of Allah. It has nothing to do with their level of knowledge, of ilm,
Right.
of formal instruction and knowledge. It has to do with the condition of their heart. Those lovers of Allah are always in the earth. They're always walking throughout the earth. Allah has placed them throughout the earth. There's always some hearts that are connected to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And those are like the prophetic inheritors, as the Prophet ﷺ described them. So I know there are a lot of misconceptions about awliya and so on, but really the reality of awliya, they're just simple, pure, clean people whose hearts are filled with the love of God, with the light of God. Those are the awliya of Allah. And when you're with them, when you sit with them, when you see them, when you speak with them, when you're just with them, the love of God then enters into your heart. That's how it works. When you're with the people of love, love enters your heart. If you're with the people of dunya, dunya enters your heart. If all we're being bombarded with all day long is media, Instagram, I don't know what else, TikTok, Facebook, like if that's all that chaos, that's all our focus, the shopping malls, the television, the shows, the movies, the media, the music, if that's all we are being exposed to, the heart is going to become saturated with dunya. But then the people of dhikr, if we sit with them, if we keep company with them, if we listen to them, if we focus on them, if we watch them and observe them, something else then begins to fill the heart, and that's light, and that's love, right? And that's really what the soul requires.
Beautiful. It's so deep. And I mean, when you talk about dhikr also, it came to my mind. A lot of people also see these are the things, and I wish everybody understand this conversation where it goes, but we have to explain some of the terms that we are using, because dhikr, of course, Quran mentions it. We know that a lot of people, dhikr is the one you get tasbih all the time, say subhanallah, or astaghfirullah. But when you say dhikr, the meaning, can you just say a few words about
yeah.
for our viewers?
Yeah, and that's also a very good point and good question, Habib John, because dhikr is very deep. Dhikr is an ocean. It's an infinite ocean. So dhikr in Arabic, it just simply means to mention or to remember. And usually when we think of dhikr, is tasbih, what people think of, is the recitation of Allah's names, of kalimat tayyibah, of salawat, right? That's generally what we think of as dhikr. And yes, that is dhikr. But many of the ulama have pointed out that there are two types of dhikr. There's outward dhikr and inward dhikr. Dhikr of the tongue and also dhikr of the heart.
Mm-hmm.
So we can be doing the dhikr of Allah, or la ilaha illallah, la ilaha illallah, la ilaha illallah. And that's good. That's blessed. The Prophet ﷺ said, keep your tongue moist with dhikrullah. So that's one aspect of it. But some of the ulama, and specifically Imam Shah Naqshband from Bukhara, he said that the silent dhikr of the heart is even more powerful.
Mm-hmm.
So the reality is that when we practice tasbih, if we do it with presence and with intention, with a good niyyah, with sincerity and with ikhlas, it will naturally lead to deeper and deeper states and experiences of dhikr, increasingly to silent, still, meditative practice. So that's where Islam and that's where dhikr takes a human being, ultimately deeper inwards, into your own being, into your own heart and soul, and ultimately into stillness. And when you're in stillness, every breath becomes dhikr. Then in that state of stillness, the human being can actually hear the name of Allah with every heartbeat. With every heartbeat, the heart is beating Allah, Allah, Allah. And every breath, you're inhaling and exhaling, hu, right? This divine cycle, this infinite cycle of loop, of gift, of life. And it's just Allahu, Allahu, Hu Allah, Hu Allah. It's this infinite loop of the affirmation of the most fundamental truth of reality. He is Allah. He is Allah. He is Allah. Existence is only for Allah. So, one of the first things that I did, Habib John, is I began to teach meditation in the Muslim community. Because this is the way that I learned Islam. It was very much emphasized in our lineage and amongst my shuyukh and teachers. But I realized so few had any concept of meditative practice within Islam. And so the first thing I did was create the Islamic meditation program to reintroduce meditative practice into the Muslim community.
Yes.
Because that's how Islam started. Islam began, revelation began, Iman began with the Prophet of Allah ﷺ sitting in states of meditative presence in a cave in Ghar Hira. That's where Islam began, and we've completely forgot that.
Yeah.
We forgot that whole aspect of the development of the human being. So dhikr is very deep. It's an ocean. It's an infinite ocean. But it's in the path of getting into deeper and deeper states of dhikr is going inwards. And I'll say this as well.
Sure.
The key to entering into deeper states of dhikr and into deeper states of connectedness with Allah, with your Lord and with your Creator is your breath. It's the breath. The human breath is sacred. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran that when I breathe, when I fashioned him, humans, children of Adam, Adam alayhi salam and his progeny, when I have fashioned him, my Khalifa, and breathe into him from my spirit, fall down prostrate before him. Allah is commanding the entirety of creation to prostrate before the children of Adam when he subhanahu wa ta'ala breathes into Adam of his spirit. Every breath that we take, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is breathing. Don't misunderstand this. It's a divine breath of divine spirit. That's where life comes from. That's where hayat comes from Al-Hayy. Allah is Al-Hayy. Every breath, Allah is putting his power and light into the human being.
SubhanAllah.
And we are taking every breath so heedlessly. We don't even think of every breath. The true abd, the true believer is one who is aware of his own breathing and grateful for every breath. He doesn't even take a breath in ghafla, in heedlessness. And that breath is a continual connection between us and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Beautiful. You mentioned, see the things that I have to cut you off sometime because...
Yeah, sorry, I sometimes run on, so my apologies, Habib Jan.
The reason is that, no, I mean, this is deep ocean, you know, but I'm trying to simplify it for people that, you know, they never heard these kind of terminology and stuff.
Yes.
But slowly we go because one day, inshallah, we all going to be just floating in this ocean of love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and his prophet. So one thing else is also because all the people are not in the same level of understanding that they could do the same thing that the shuyukh and the ulama or the scholars or peers, you know, also that's one thing come up. A lot of people have thinking that we say peer or murshid. This is another thing. And they think that peer is, they're going indirectly, like, you know, indirectly they peer intercede for them or this and that. This is another problem when people hear about word of peer or murshid or murid, right? I wanted to just say a few words about this and that we could just, you know, clear this one to our viewers that what
Sure, yeah. You know, I guess I kind of, you know, opened up the subject and pointed to it earlier, but I think it's important to understand what a peer is. What is a shaykh? What is a murshid?
Right.
And there are different approaches to this concept or this relationship. There are different understandings.
Right.
My humble opinion, from what I have seen and what I have learned, from what I have experienced, is that a real sheikh, a real peer, a real murshid is nothing other than an example.
Yeah.
He's a guide. He guides by leading by example. He's a guide based on his actual personal being. That's the example. That's the leadership. That's the sheikh. I am not of the opinion that the sheikh or the peer is like an oracle, and we go and, you know, as if you're consulting an oracle on every little aspect of life. The sheikh is the one who's walking in the footsteps of the Prophet ﷺ. He's showing us what we can do, what we're supposed to do, how we're supposed to live, how we're supposed to worship, how we speak, how we eat, how we dress, how we walk, how we talk, everything. That's the murshid. That's the value of the murshid. The value of the murshid, of a sheikh, of a peer, is the degree to which he is a perfect reflection of the Prophet ﷺ. That's it. Just as the Prophet ﷺ was the full moon, representing perfectly the light of the sun, the light of Allah shining and reflecting off of the Prophet, the peer, the sheikh, the murshid, the degree of perfection of that sheikh is the degree to which he is reflecting that same light. That light from Allah, from the Prophet, should be reflected on the sheikh. And then thus we learn, right? It's not so much about the sheikh or the peer giving lessons or dars or instructions or guidance. It's about how he lives his life. That's the most powerful means of learning that a human being can experience. Example. So if someone is looking for a peer, looking for a guide, and we must be looking for a guide, we can't live without a guide in any area of life. We have to have examples and models, and people have gone before us, whether it's in academia, profession, also in faith and religion and spirituality. Seek out the one who is most perfectly representing the Prophet ﷺ. When you see him, you're reminded of the Messenger of Allah. That's the peer, that's the guide, that's the sheikh. So that when you see him, you can feel connected to the Messenger and to the religion. When you see him, your heart becomes inspired and pulled, and you fall in love with the religion because of the way he's practicing it with such excellence and with such beauty. That's, in my opinion, the real function of a sheikh or peer.
Alhamdulillah, I know this is a long discussion, but the reason I bring these points slowly, because we want to just, open the door of discussion, further discussion about this, because we talk about love and stuff, and we talk about path, and the path requires this, because I believe in chain. Whatever chain, if there's no chain to Prophet ﷺ, then you're going astray.
Yeah.
And that's the reason, like you said, the real sheikh and peer, if you look at it, if I say that it's our Prophet ﷺ, and everybody's following his path, am I right? So what are you trying to do over here? Because this is the beginning of this program that inshallah in a future discussion, we're going to bring more aspects of love and how you look at it, and talk about tasawwuf, because that's something, there's another thing that people are afraid of, talk of tasawwuf and Sufi, because there's a lot of misconception about that too.
There is.
And so many people hiding themselves, they're not saying, because there's certain people who call him and mark him and stuff. But if you go in this path, inshallah, and there's nothing hidden, everything is just like a sun shining. So the next question I have for you, to just touch upon it, a lot of people are not in that level that they know all these zikr, or they don't have sheikh and stuff. Very primary and very basic steps that people, to go to this path, number one. And number two, fear and hope. That's another discussion. A lot of people have fear. And a lot of people, they don't know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will accept them in any situation and position they are. So this is something a lot of people hesitate to go to the path, For you as a teacher, as a mentor, that you're teaching people and they come the first day and they are interested, what are the basic advices you gave to those people that we can, just pass it to others, please?
I would suggest maybe the first step in beginning to move in this direction and this path into discovering love and light and peace and presence in Islam is to begin spending a little bit of time every day in meditative practice and just relaxing, becoming still, breathing, and maybe a little bit of dhikr every day, right? Focus dhikr. The best time for this is the last third of the night before Fajr or up until sunrise. And then also in the nighttime after Maghrib, after Asr and Maghrib, etc., as the sun is setting and into the night. Just to spend a little bit of time every day. And just to, you can do any basic dhikr. Just La ilaha illallah, the name of Allah, and salawat on the Prophet ﷺ. 5 minutes, 10 minutes, but to do it in a relaxed state. Physically begin to relax. Physically begin to let go of stress and tension and worry which manifest in your physical body. Just breathe and relax and be with Allah for 5 minutes a day. And that becomes like a daily dose of a vitamin, of a sustenance for the soul, that if we do that consistently every day, more and more doors begin to open up. Again, every time we take a step towards Allah, He subhanahu wa ta'ala takes 10 towards us. So just taking one step every day towards Allah for something as simple as that, just to sit and be still for a few minutes a day, it'll really begin to move us towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we begin to attract to ourselves more of what we need on this path of drawing near unto the divine presence.
Beautifully mentioned when we said Vaid Amin, and people are familiar with medical terminology, you say vital is life,
Yeah.
vital. Vitamin, amine of life. And that means when you say dhikr is in life, exactly the actual zikr. Al-Hayy is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give you life and bring your heart and actually feel like your heart is living. Because a lot of people are dead unless they do dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's what keeps your hearts alive, right?
Absolutely.
Maulana beautifully said in Farsi, he said, مرده بودم زنده شدم گریه بودم خنده شدم دولت عشق آمد و من دولت پاینده شدم. So this is basically, it tells us that I was dead when the ishq comes up, right? The eternity, ishq or love come to my heart, then become eternal. SubhanAllah. So these are the next steps, inshallah, slowly we go. But I'm sorry to cut you off and so many times. The reason is that because we want to familiarize everybody just watching this program, that they get familiarized, because we're going to talk more about that in the future lessons. And this was kind of beginning of that. And I'm asking you, as an expert in this field, how we should proceed with this kind of program. We're going to set, our viewers are very khudumani, you know what I mean? They're not just, it's not a formal program, let's put it that way. Everybody's sitting home like we are part of their family, if I say so. And they're watching, you know, they're part of the conversation we are right now. So how are we going to start this one? You think we should just take steps through these programs, and we will talk about the time commitment later on with you. So to wrap this one, because we don't want to, you know, just drag it longer than another 5 or 10 minutes latest, we were talking about path of love. And if you can talk about love, superficial love, and actually real love, and or majazi or haqiqi, if we say that, right? So, because a lot of people, when you say love, automatically they think love is what you're doing in this world, and that's it. Loving your kids, loving your spouse, loving the animals and creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's love too. But the actual love that we're talking about, can you talk a few minutes about that? Then I will not going to ask you more questions. Inshallah, you can close up with those.
So I think, as I think I mentioned earlier, Habib John, that the reality of this religion is love. And what love is seeking to do, right? Our souls are seeking love. Every being is looking and seeking love because it's what we were created for. But we tend to look for it in the wrong places. We tend to look for it in the world of form, in the world of things, in the world of material, whether it's in human beings or objects, physical objects, whatever it is. We're looking at it in the form. But the reality of love is, it's not in form. It may pass through the form, but it can't be the form itself. And this is one of the great problems of modern society and culture, because it places all emphasis on the form, on the superficial appearance of things. And so that's a recipe for disaster. The reality of love is, the reality of love is that it is the breath of God. Love is divine by nature. And you can love your child or your wife or your husband or your parents, but the most powerful and real love that never dies, that only expands over time and into eternity, is when you love them for the sake of God. When you love for the sake of Allah. So our value system has to get corrected, because we're bombarded with, right? The Prophet ﷺ said, for example, when people marry, they're going to marry for one of three things. You know, either for beauty, or for wealth, or for family relationships, notoriety, etc. He said, or for the religion. 4 things. He said, marry for the religion. Because, and again, not just the formal religion, but the complete religion in form and essence. When you marry, when you love for the sake of God, that love never dies. It increases forever. But if the love is a worldly based love, it will eventually lead you to unhappiness and misery. It will lead you to heartbreak and to suffering, because these things then become false gods. You can love your children, your wife, your spouse, all of this, but love them for the sake of Allah. And when you're seeking a spouse, if you're not married yet, or if you're in a marriage, try to make your lives about divine love, about growing in the way of Allah, because then you can keep moving together. Our home is not in this world.
Right.
If we try to build the American dream, actually, this is why it turns out to become a nightmare for humanity. Because the whole dream is to create the perfect life on earth, and you can't do it. We weren't meant to do that. We are travelers on this path.
Right.
To find somebody or become those people who are traveling together towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then your love is divinely supported. If we try to exclude Allah from our lives and love just for the sake of superficial things, those false gods will eventually destroy us. Whether it's your children, your spouse, anything else, job, money, wealth, cars, possessions. We can't love these things unless we love them for the sake of Allah.
Jazakallah khair.
Welcome.
This was beautiful discussion, so inshallah, we will talk about that in the near future. We're going to come up with another program. And of course, the Path of Love is the name, but we're going to talk more about this. I really appreciate from your busy schedule. I know that you had some other plans, so thank you so much for being, may Allah keeps you safe and healthy with your family where you are. And inshallah, we'll see you in person soon because I haven't seen you in a long time. And inshallah, we'll call you again near future to set up another program for our viewers.
Inshallah.
Thank you. Last message to your viewers, inshallah.
Yes. Thank you, Habib John, for having me. It was a pleasure to see you again. And inshallah, when this quarantine is over, I look forward to hopefully seeing you in person. Perhaps we can have a gathering with some people who would like to sit and remember Allah together for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So Jazakum khairan. It was a pleasure to be with you all again as well. Everybody who's watching and listening. If you would like, you can also follow my work and connect with me online. My main website is spiritualexcellence.com. And from there, you can also find links to my YouTube channel. We have a podcast.
Can you repeat it again? I'm sorry, just slowly repeat it because a lot of people.
Sure. Yeah, the website is spiritualexcellence.com. So the two words spiritual and excellence.com. That's the main website. And then from there, you can find links to my YouTube channel, as well as our podcast, Soul of Islam Radio, and any other resources we have as well. Jazakallah khairun.
MashaAllah. There's a lot to learn about your projects and work. Really admire what you're doing for the sake of Allah. Jazakallah khair again. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Talk to you soon, inshallah.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah.